Right. Okay. Is there anyone who pushed record before I got to the record button?
It's you,
No.
Linda.
No.
It's
Okay,
against
what?
your name, the record.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. So let's get going. And Jane will manage the people coming in. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Smith, and I'm the CEO of 50 Plus Skills. And it's such a delight to have you all on this call on the offboarding conversation. And a special welcome to Jane, who's helping me to manage in the back end, and Lisa Stead and Alwetu, who are going to share some of their own experiences. And so, yeah, let's just get going. And for all of those on the call, it's wonderful to have you here. Please put some questions in the chat box. We're going to have a bit of a conversation between Lisa Alwetu and myself. And then we're going to leave about 30 minutes at the end for any questions that you may have. So firstly, just from a 50 plus perspective, for those who are not aware of us, we are a community for anyone over the age of 50. We have a few people who kind of creep in at 48, and some of our oldest members are close to 80, but a majority are in the 50 to 70 group. And we're a membership community where we have individuals from all over the country who belong, and we serve and we learn and we earn together. We're not a recruitment site. We're more about helping people discover their unique path along their journey, moving from possibly their professional career into what they want to do next. Because we're living in a longevity world where we're likely to live an extra 50 years beyond our 50th birthday. And so we need to plan differently than our parents and grandparents. At Davos in 2020, they said we'll live 10 years longer on average than our parents' generation and 20 years longer than our grandparents. We can sit in that rocking chair, but not for 30 years. You need to kind of have a portfolio life and create something completely different. So some of the programs that we offer obviously is our online membership, where we do newsletters, online talks like these, and we have some that are exclusively for members. We also have small communities in most of the cities now where we network and connect and collaborate. We also run the 6-month course called The Next Chapter or Transition Strong. And in that case, we're doing a journey for people who are moving from their formal career into what they plan to do next. And that's really one of our flagships that we will be talking about a bit today. We also do keynotes and workshops and a lot of coaching, because individuals too need to be able to think about their own unique path going forward. That for me is really critical, because we get to this stage very different from 20, 23-year-olds who are all more similar. We've got built character, we've got skills, we've got some of us enough money, some of us, most of us need more money. Our health positions will alter, our family positions will alter what those decisions look like. That's why it's quite unique in creating something that brings your actual passions and talents to the table in this season of life. So I want to introduce Lisa and Alwetu, and then we're going to go into a bit of a three-way conversation. So Lisa Stead is the general manager now of Coach Match. She is a pioneer and entrepreneur in the field of organizational coaching, and established Coaching and Mentoring Center at RMB in 2009. And she has led a community of practice in this field for a very long time. In 2019, Lisa was asked to lead the extension of coaching and mindfulness portfolio for the bank across their local and international businesses. In 2023, she joined the Coach Match and is now the general manager. And side by side with this, she, with her husband, has curated a mindfulness center in Johannesburg called Living Essence Mindfulness, and a stylish guest house called the Urban Oasis. So thank you, Lisa. It's lovely to have you here. And Alwetu has been in the people, human capital space for over 12 years, with most of that time focused on employee wellness. And she has always been passionate about making the workplace a better, more supportive environment for everyone. And that certainly, I know, I have worked with Alweta now for since 2019, and she is an absolute pleasure to work with. So, Alweta, let's start with you. We met in 2019, as I said, when you were part of the team that organized a retirement wellness event at the Indaba Hotel. Can you share a little about this event and the vision of the bank for those within a few years of retirement?
Thank you, Lisa, and hello, everybody. It's such a pleasure being here today. Sure, you're taking me back to 2019 when we were tasked with this. At that time, it seemed so daunting of a task because you firstly need to understand what the requirement is for putting together such an event and why we are doing it. We were busy exploring the different um, stages of life that an employee goes through in an organization. We call them critical moments. And we've seen that, at the exit, when you go in retirement, there isn't a lot of focus there around, the support that is offered for employees. We've seen in a lot of corporates, it's the focus on younger generation that's joining the training, and all the other aspects such as marriage, divorce, that type of thing. But when you're exiting through retirement, it's almost like, oh, it's been great having you. We hope you have a great time. Here's your pension money and goodbye. But at the time, we realized that there's a lot of investment that needs to go into it. It is a daunting experience for the employee, and we realize that we need to provide more focus on that, because it is actually one of the most critical moments of one's life, when you eventually leave the corporate space, because your time is basically at the point where you have agreed upon with the employer. So we decided that we needed to do a retirement workshop where we showcase all the support that is offered, what critical thinking you need to be engaging yourself in as you are approaching the retirement stage. Quite a bit of a list of people that will come and provide all the information that is critical for this, people such as the retirement fund people, people such as 50 plus, which is where I started learning a lot around what you guys do, which I thought was incredible. As well as all the other product houses that form part of your journey, like travel. When you think of retirement, people think, oh, I'm going to travel the world because I can afford it at that time. But we also brought in the financial advisors, the financial planners to assist you in your thinking realistically, because we all understand the financial aspect of retirement is one of the most important ones, because that's how we afford to live post our careers from whatever organization. We also brought in, the psychology in retirement, because that's also something that forms a huge role due to the change that you are facing as you are exiting and what that all means. So we brought together a lot of aspects, and it was such an amazing event to see people, the hunger of it. And it almost affirmed our thinking, that this is something that it's not just a tick box exercise, but it's actually something that was really needed by our community. And it felt like we were starting a culture that hopefully other organizations will see and adopt.
Absolutely, you were
Yeah.
doing that. I had been coming alongside financial planners for a 2-hour workshop over a number of years, but that day will stand for me as a leading mark where you were one of the first banks to be able to create a much more holistic view of and caring
Yeah.
for your retirees. I think there were 600 people there that day, and it was absolutely amazing. So then we hit COVID soon
Yes.
after that, but that didn't stop you. We went online, and you carried on with these retirement wellness programs. I think to a large extent, wellness also, COVID put a spotlight on employee well-being. And this continued then through that process. Do you want to just talk a little bit about those 2 years and how that changed or shifted your thinking?
Yes, absolutely. When COVID hit, it obviously needed us to pivot in how we do things, and delighting to be. And this also, based on the feedback we received from the 2019 event, it solidified that this is actually one of the most important EVP offerings that we've got as an organization, and it became crucial that it forms part of overall well-being, and in as much as some of it was, the product support, the financial support, but it was more around the fact that you have a support structure as somebody that is at the stage of their lives. You've got a support structure that will walk with you through the journey, through our EAP services, because that's something that you continue to have access to, which is the counseling services, not just for yourself, but also for your family members. As you navigate and plan your life, that's something that you've got access to. And then also the coaching aspect of it, creating coaching opportunities for employees, where we say, go and have conversations with coaching experts that will assist and guide you on your journey as you prepare yourself. And it's specific for those that are close to, exiting. But we continue to hold the seminars online on an annual basis, where we invited now not just people that are closer to a venue, but rather all of our employees that are of a certain age group online. And we say, come have a conversation, listen to these experts as they talk to the aspects that you need to be focusing on as you are reaching the age of retirement. Have you thought of this? Did you know that we are doing this for you and that we are supporting you this way? So it broadened our reach, Linda, and it didn't just end in SA. It went all the way to Africa, like our African subsidiaries. I remember we also engaged with our UK subsidiary, and they really loved the concept. But time conflicts with time zones sometimes conflict with your planning, but they would take the recording, go through it, and do a bespoke solution for the people in their region. So that's how far it has gone, and it's something that our different teams from the different countries look forward to on an annual basis, because this is something that assists them in ensuring that they show up for those employees in those regions, because again, this is not something that you see a lot in corporate.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to turn to Lisa now. So Lisa, we started a conversation in 2022 about creating a program for your employees within 2 to 3 years of retirement. Can you share with me what you felt and why it was important for you at that point?
Yeah, thanks, Linda. I was trying to think back to how I actually was introduced to you, and I think it was through those employee sessions and checking out 50 plus skills. But what had been going on with me for a few years was it started in my personal life, witnessing my dad, who'd been a founder of his own business, and he was well into his 70s, and I could see the struggle that he was going through with letting go, not sure about succession. So he didn't have an obvious, it wasn't a family business where a child would succeed him. But I also recognized how important it was for him to stay active and how it had made a difference for him to still be productive. And I had often thought, if I could be like him, that would be amazing. And so I was thinking about my own journey, but also noticing people, working in the coaching space. We looked at, hiring to retiring and how coaching would support staff members through the different phases. We're very invested in leadership transition, who's the successor to this executive who's going to move on. But I started seeing how it was so difficult for these individuals to let go. And there was still so much energy within them. They kind of felt there's a runway ahead of me. I'm not at the end of the runway. And so the contemplation here, looking at identity work that was involved in being able to facilitate the sort of the closing of a chapter within corporate life with dignity, not just around the farewell party and a gift collection and handing over a gift and saying goodbye, and the poor person doesn't know the next day they wake up and they're in a whole new world. And, many people have given thought to this themselves, but it started to occur to me that we could use a coaching approach to, work with people at the right stage of their career transition to be able to, what we then came to call transition strong. It was transition with dignity, have hope for their next chapter. And that was how we came to have the conversation.
Wonderful. Do you want to give us a little bit of an idea of the elements that you put together that made up Transition Strong?
Yeah, I think that, your discovering that you actually had a public program around this was very exciting. So we didn't have to expand, we didn't have to start from scratch. So there was very clearly the identity piece, what's that psychological aspect of who have I been, and I've attached so much of my worth to the role that I fulfill, and for most people, it's the professional role is that big thing that they attach to. And so who am I without that? What is my purpose and my calling? What are my gifts that I offer in this world? And how could I use this in different ways? The next chapter was an important part because, having done this up till now, how could I, create, new skills that could help me shift and pivot if necessary? Or is there some way of leveraging what I've done to now? So I think there was definitely a piece about, in a safe coaching context, being able to look at, reflect on what I have to offer. For some people, it was a necessity to continue to earn, for others not. And then, are we looking at leaving a legacy? What is that legacy that I want to leave? And where could I maybe volunteer my services free of charge? Just make a contribution in the world. And certainly looking at having social impact as being a key driver. I think those were some of the major ones. Also looking at health and well-being, knowing that that's part of the longevity drive, keeping fit, staying mentally and physically active. I think those are some of the
I know
main.
that this program really has an impact on the employees and anybody, in fact, who has done this course with us. But I know you and I had some conversations at the time about the importance for corporates too. Do you want to share a little bit about what is the importance for a corporate to be able to do this process well?
Yeah, we do invest in, as organizations, we invest a lot in talent development. And I just saw that retirement phase was often the overlooked demographic, and yet had so much to offer. And so in starting conversations with the well-being team, with the human capital business partners, I recognized that there was a heart there too for, individuals who'd contributed significantly to the business. Another conversation that started being elevated was how could these individuals continue to mentor back into the organization? So running the coaching and mentoring center, it was also about saying, could we equip individuals to be able to give back in different ways and that they could have a next phase to their career? So, I think individuals in different business units would sit year by year having talent conversations. And I think it was just elevating that there's something incredibly worthwhile and valuable to be offered, to individuals looking at 2 to 3 years or even the final year. It's never too late. For some individuals, it's a year before retirement. yeah, to be more considered in that opportunity.
Yeah, I think for me, what I saw always, whether they were the public programs we run or even those within a corporate, is that the change from fear to hope in the eyes of the people, because they see themselves as valuable and with a future, rather than this dead end and too tied to an old identity and no way to cross a bridge into the next season. And so for me personally, those were always very valuable opportunities. So Alweto, if I can go back to you, how did the design of what you were doing in the bigger well-being picture, how has that continued over the years now? What else are you doing every year for your employees?
Thanks, Linda. So we, like I said earlier, we started off with just doing the events and the awareness sessions, but we started off with the focus on 52 years and above. We've lowered that. We're now saying everybody from 50 and over, come, let's have a meaningful conversation on an annual basis. Let's discuss a few things that you need to have in consideration. But we have also opened it up to the greater banking community in my organization to say, come have a listen and understand what the thinking process is when it comes to planning for your retirement. And what we feature is the financial aspect, holistic outlook on retirement, as well as the Transition Strong program, which is a continued program that is offered for employees as part of their employee experience, like what you go through as an employee of this organization, in ensuring that you feel the support, and we continue to provide you with all the necessary resources that go towards you fulfilling what you would like to fulfill as an individual that is part of this organization. We want the employee to thrive, and one of the things that we pride ourselves in is doing the right thing and ensuring that you are supported throughout your experience within this organization. And I think that when we started off, it was part of well-being, but we've since moved it to be one of your benefits as an employee of FirstRand, having access to this. And we continue to push this, not just now um, to have an event, an annual event, but rather say that it's one of the learning opportunities that you've got as an employee, where we say go through coaching, and then we are also introducing other aspects as part of the considerations. This year, what we plan on doing is to talk about upskilling opportunities. What do we have as an organization that we can still offer you on your way on this journey that you can use outside? Doesn't necessarily have to be something that is upskilling you so that you can support your role better, but rather support your dreams beyond your exit from the organization, which I think is great. I think that it's quite important that we assist you in realizing your future as you still continue to be part of the organization. So that's one of the newer aspects that we have included, Linda. And we continue to engage, we continue to engage with people to see what other industry, what other people are doing in the industry to ensure that we improve and we do meaningful interventions for our employees and meaningful offerings that form part of what truly is needed by the employee.
Yeah, if we're going to be living, 30, 25 years, and I call it the gift season because we're still young enough with skills to be able to create a portfolio life. And so we strengthen not just the person, but society as a whole. And that's one of our big visions at 50 plus, is to find ways where we can mentor and coach and create opportunities where we can help. So Lisa, last question for you. Thank you, Alweto. You were leading the program at the time, but you also attended the program. What did it awaken in you, and where did that leave you?
Yeah, I've been in the coaching space. We had the delight of experiencing an offering so that we could, I guess it's an experiment, but it was also applying to self. And little did I realize how vital it was at this stage for my own career. So I had never expected that I would be employable at that late stage of my life. So I'll even disclose my age at the time. I was 57 when I met Linda. And then by the time we had the program, I was thinking of early retirement, but what was my next phase? And it was so valuable to have the provision of the content, to engage with the material, to help me think through very specifically. There's a workbook, there's homework that needs to be done, there's reading that needs to be done, contemplation, and then the one-on-one coaching sessions. And I had thought I was going in a certain direction. And what it gave me was an opportunity to actually step into different employment before. So it's as if I crafted my next and then my next. So I have a much longer sort of timeline ahead of me in different phases. So yeah, it blew my mind. And I love that I have a plan. So I have both a financial plan and I have a life plan. And I think one of the greatest things for me was recognizing that right now, the legacy that I'm kind of creating and will leave is for my granddaughters. I recognize that my grandmother had invested so deeply in me as a person. And I think back to age 13 and how I could invest in time and mentoring and just spending development time with my granddaughters. So these are things that are why I'm mentioning them. They were mindset shifts that happened. I didn't recognize how profound it would be. So yes, there was personal benefit and also the opportunity to leave the legacy of Transition Strong in the coaching space for the organization when I left. There was a proud moment, a special moment.
Wonderful. Yeah, it is a wonderful program that has continued since your exit, which is amazing. So now I'm going to, Jane, if you can change it to gallery view. There are a few people, I think, on the call that have done the course. And I would love for one or two of them to put up their hand to maybe make a comment about what that meant for you. Or you can put it in the chat box and then Jane can manage the chat box for us, and then I will open up to general questions. Don't all shout at once. Otherwise, I might pick on you. Shamila.
Hi, hello, everyone. It's so nice to be back and be on this platform. So I'm one of the people that have completed the Transition Strong workshop. And I have to admit that it really helped me to see, clearly, giving me hope, like Linda said, because I agree that, there's so much of emphasis put on training and onboarding. And when people are retiring within an organization, it's like you generally just left on your own. And as Lisa said, that it's not about the farewell gift and the farewell party, but there's a whole lot more. So being on the workshop has really helped to give me a little bit of clarity as to, okay, there is a future. There is something that I can look forward to. I have not reached a dead end. And working through all of those workbooks has also given me, some direction as to think about things that perhaps I haven't given any thought. And I loved it because it just made such a big difference to me as an individual. And it's 2 years now since I have retired, and I still am part of the 50 plus. Unfortunately, I couldn't join in all of the sessions because I've been spending 6 months of my time with my daughter in the US, and then I have a daughter in the UK. So between the two of them, I've literally spent maybe more than 1.5 years of the 2 years abroad. And with some of the sessions I could join, when I was in the UK, I could join because of the time difference not being so vast. but in the US it is a slightly challenging. But definitely given me so much more hope. And I've had like the coaching sessions, the one-on-one coaching sessions with Carol. Hi, Carol. I remember, and I'm sure Carol will remember, I was so afraid. I was so afraid of making this change because, yes, we identify with our careers. You know, if people ask you, what do? You give your title. You don't ever speak about yourself in a personal capacity. And I know with those coaching sessions, you know, it made such a big difference because you had somebody that you could speak to and you could really speak from your heart because we all have the same fears and we all have the same doubts. And so you could speak to somebody from your heart without fear of being judged. And that also opens up a lot of, it clears some of the frostiness that you have. And from the program, I think what was very important to me, I discovered that everybody feels the same. You know, you think, oh, I'm the only person, perhaps I haven't planned enough, I haven't saved enough, I haven't looked at my retirement money whatsoever. But when I was in the program, I discovered that everybody has the same fears. You're not alone in it. We all go through exactly the same thing. There's just one question I would like to ask before I give someone else an opportunity. So I was fortunate that I got into that session because of Lisa. So I was on the wellness side of F&B at the time, and I was part of the whole mindfulness journey. And I recall that I sent an email to Lisa to say that I'm going to retire in a few months and I'm quite overwhelmed. And thank you, Lisa, because you recommended that I join the 50 plus. Now, the question that I want to ask is that I was part of F&B. I wasn't part of the bigger R&B, right? And I realized that F&B staff were not given this opportunity. It was mainly R&B. So I happened to get in because of being on the wellness and the mindfulness program. And then one or two of my colleagues, when I spoke to Linda, she said, no, if your colleagues are retiring at that time, you can, obviously let them know that there is a program. And one or two of my colleagues have joined. And ever since then, there's been several people that I've worked with that have never been given this opportunity. So I just want to ask, is it something that is specific just to, and maybe Alwetu, you can help there. Is it just specific to R&B, or are they going to open it out to the broader, F&B? Thanks. That is all I wanted to say. Thank you, Linda.
I'm going to answer for now, unless Alberta, you want to say something, or otherwise we can respond back to Shamila. There are a number of FMB people that have joined some of my public courses as they have spoken to their line managers. So I'd rather that we didn't go into just talking about the bank today because there's other people on the call, but we will get back to you on that as well. Thanks, Shamila. I really appreciate your comments, and have children will travel. That's part of the season as well, when our children live all over the planet. Anybody else? Helen, would you like to say something? You were intricately involved after Lisa left and helped us to manage the phase 2 of that program.
Yeah, no, I can share. So for me, I think a lot of people, there is a lot of fear. People don't want to face the fact that they're going to retire. But I think the people who do think about it actually focus more on the financial side. And I was one of them. So for me to learn about how important community and support is, and to design this next chapter basically from scratch. You don't have to, continue doing what you did your whole life. And just that liberty and freedom of, what you can create this next chapter, and it's your life. But yeah, definitely it just opened up my mind about a lot of things. I remember in the one session, the one lady spoke about she's going to have a lot of fun. And I thought, sure, I've been working my whole life. I've never thought of now I can have fun. So, yeah, definitely a great mind shift. And and opening up my mind that I experienced throughout the whole all the sessions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Helen. Carol, I know you've done a lot of the one-on-one coaching. Maybe you'd like to just reflect a little bit on it from the coach's angle.
Yeah, thank you, Linda, and thanks to Lisa and Alwetu for sharing with us. I think that from a coaching perspective, everyone is in a different space when they come to this phase of their lives, and so for me, I think it's it's really important for them just to be able to really just make time. It's kind of interesting in our lives. We don't make time to reflect on what we are going to be doing for ourselves, the planning, the reflection, the research, building communities that can support us. And maybe that is one thing that has sort of surprised me. I mean, I'm not in a large corporate. Within a corporate like FirstRand and many others, there's so many skilled people. There's so many opportunities to upskill yourself, to be mentored, to go on training, etc. To have people come and give you advice on anything from financial to health challenges, and somehow people haven't really developed that skill of reaching out, of connecting beyond just maybe a very small kind of community. So, yeah, I've seen many people from our coaching programs and from the 50 plus skills community now starting to reach out to each other, because that's really what a community is all about. It's saying, how can I help you? And what are the skills and the opportunities that you have that maybe I could learn from or participate in? So it's brought me a lot of joy to see the different members engaging with each other, after the courses, after our social engagement sessions that we have, our networking, and realizing that, yes, maybe when you're in corporate, a lot is defined for you, but actually you can take ownership of your life, and it can be anything that you want to create it to be. So yeah, maybe that's just some reflections from my side.
Thanks, Carol. Anybody else? Very good.
I just want to say that looking at the people who have left the corporate world, they are looking so much more relaxed than when we were engaging with them in the corporate. And I am excluding our way through here. She's still young enough to deal with the stress. But I think, as we end our careers in the corporate world, it is an extremely stressful time. And this program just helps you actually just shrug off that stress on your shoulders and put a new chapter in your life as to what am I going to do now. And it's a time to actually be a bit selfish, because generally you've put in all your work for the corporate and your family and making sure your children have grown up, they're all taken care of. And now you reach this part of your life and you can think, hey, this is for me. This is my life now, that I can be a bit selfish and do what I want to do, sometimes for the first time in your life. So lovely seeing the less stressed of you on the screen at the moment.
If
Renee.
I could add to that,
Sure.
sorry, Linda. I just wanted to mention, like, on top of what Jane has shared, I've seen it from my own personal experience. My mom recently retired. She struggled to be okay with the fact that she will be fine. Everything will be fine. You have planned everything. You need to start being selfish and be okay with being happy because you are being selfish and you're taking care of yourself for the first time because everybody else is now fine. So you are absolutely right, Jane. I think it comes with an unfamiliar feeling of being relaxed and being free of anxiety and concern over, everything that you have always had to worry about when you eventually reach retirement. It changes and it feels unfamiliar. Is what I saw and recognized from my own mother. And I realized that imagine if she had to go through this training, uh, to prepare for it and understand that this is okay. This is actually the season of you and discovering yourself all over again. Yeah.
That's why I call it the gift season, because we've been given this gift, but we have to give ourselves permission to actually take that baton and run with
Receive.
it. Chip Conley says in his book, Wisdom at Work, that this gift is not like building an extra room on the side of your house. It's building an atrium in the middle of your house. And so you're expanding your life to add value to your family, to yourself, to your community, to the country, and beyond, wherever that might be, And so, for me, it's such a gift we've been given, and yet we fall into old style retirement because that's the what marketing still does. They don't see us as adding value as citizens. Richard, I'd love to hear your comment after last week in your book and saying how much you are passionate about this. How's this call felt for you as a very new? Did you say the other day you are 50 or you be turning
Just turned
50?
50. No,
Okay,
so I turned 50 in October. But thank you for having to check. I appreciate the gesture. It's when you're 17, you want everyone to think you're 18. When you're 50, you want everyone to. But so it's very interesting for me, and I actually really found the conversations instructive and engaging. As an entrepreneur, the perspectives are different. I don't want to retire. I want to rewire. I want to figure out what my new model is for continuing to add value. I recognize that I'm not sure I would feel the same way if I worked for First Rand, with no offense to First Rand, but it's just because this is my company and I own it. I also recognize that I have to step away and give other leadership a chance to take the reins in a better form. But for me, as a professional speaker and an author, my best work will come the grayer my hair goes. My speaking fees go up, my value goes up, and I move from the phase of intelligence to wisdom, and wisdom becomes highly valuable. I am the start of my new book, Relentless Relevance. I talk a lot about. I think that we're thinking about retirement incorrectly or longevity incorrectly, which was the theme of the call. Uh, I understand that we need to have healthy longevity. I understand we need to have wealthy longevity, but we need to have relevant longevity. And people have mentioned their parents, and I saw my super proud. I think my mom, who worked for a large corporate, she was very happy to retire. She really enjoyed it. My father, who was a specialist in broadcasting, it was his entire lifestyle and identity. And my dad is really struggling at 78 with his usefulness, trying to understand what his use is. And I think the feeling of utility and usefulness and being appropriate to some matter at hand is fundamentally important. And that's my big thing that I worry about is I don't want my usefulness runway to shorten. And so I when the reason I'm on the call is I mentioned the other day, and that I'm very frustrated that we have been trained for every aspect of our life. Preschool trained us for primary school, which trained us for high school, which trained us for university, which trained us for work, and nobody's training us for this. And it used to be retirement was kind of some people would make it, but most people wouldn't because you were dying at 61 and the first pension was valid from 70. And so, or people were dying at 61. I feel like I'm just so happy that people are doing this body of work that I didn't know existed and that is preparing people for the next phase. And I'm very excited that organizations are embracing it. My dream is that organizations will start considering uh, transformational training into this rewirement phase with the same level of rigor that they treat maternity leave and other normalized things. I believe that this is a lost generation and we're sending them off in a terrible way. So I salute every one of you for all the amazing stuff you're doing. And thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, we absolutely agree. We call it refinement, not rewirement, but all of those are about continuing and whatever that might look like for you. I think it's Pete Leyburn who says the only way you can't be fired is to do your own thing. And this is the season where you become the entrepreneur. For those of us who have been entrepreneurs most of our lives, as you say, we have to understand when the succession plan or the S curve of the next piece comes, and we allow others to, to continue with what it was that we're doing to remain relevant. But
If I may
it
pose a
really is
question,
so
Linda,
key. Yeah,
may I
sure.
ask a question of you and of the group? Is there not, with us now living, so 50 and 50, like at 50, we're 50% of the way. Is there not a new form of fractional work that can exist post 65 in which we can still engage with our organizations, but at 1 day a week or a certain amount of hours a day, or a new form of employment? Do we not need to create new normalized categories and no longer force people into employment at certain ages? I understand that a lot of people do want the gift of that, and maybe in 15 years I'll feel very differently. But for me, I want to be doing a speaking gig once a week or things like this. Is there not new forms of fractional employment that would make sense once we reach a certain age?
We would love to see that as part of the thinking and strategies of companies. Absolutely. I don't think there needs to be a dead stop. But again, strategically, pension rules, I think, are not going to change that simply. Hence the need for these kinds of interventions until they catch up. For me, in the longevity world, I think that there should be a continued journey across the journey of work, because the work journey for everybody is changing, and we need to learn to work for 6, 7 employers rather than many in our generation who only worked for one. I'm not one of those because I went in and out and that creates the transformational skills that help us to remain open-minded and resilient. And it really is important to have that set of skills: curiosity, experimenting and finding ways where we can connect. Renee, I'd love you to make a comment. You've kind of crossed this bridge, but you did it on your own terms. So share with us. And then I'd like Sharon, if you've just finished the public course, so maybe you would like to talk from your angle. Renee? Thanks, Rich.
Oh, thank you, Linda. I've been making comments in the chat because I'm getting so excited listening to Rich. And from my perspective, looking back, I think the best way of preparing yourself for this next chapter is actually to already develop your entrepreneurial thinking and be aware that you have to have a growth mindset, and specifically a beneficial mindset. Because if you are in the financial position that you don't need to earn anymore, then think of how can I still be of benefit to society, and start engaging and start looking out for those kind of opportunities and not wait until you're 60. Because what I found was my biggest challenge was my identity. I've performed in corporate. I performed in my own businesses while I was younger. My last 8 years, I was with F&B, and I've always performed, but it actually formed my identity. And when I left, and then I thought, okay, fine, and now what? And then I discovered I am not the best project. In terms of my personality, I've grown into the role of a project manager. But now that I'm in the next chapter, I don't want to be that project manager. So I changed my identity completely. And discovering that identity was actually, I would say, traumatic, to say that I thought I knew who I am. And now I'm actually starting all over. And like you said, you don't have the same kind of like community when you're 18 or 22, 23, 25 to grow your career. It's kind of like you're left to your own devices and make it happen. So one of the things I thought, and I must really, with regards to F&B, that stood out for me is that they encourage the employees
to have sidelines and you know and to actually for additional income. And the way I saw it is to help them to basically say, you know, you will get to a certain level and you won't be promoted anymore because that's your skill. And that's how we can use you. This is an organization and we can't just keep on paying you more and more. So there will be a ceiling in terms of your income. So start with a sideline. Obviously not interfering, and there was very good rules in terms of that. But that's, I think, an excellent way to help 50 pluses to say, okay, fine, start in the meantime, start with something else while you're still in full employment, because it will also assist you. I believe it would have assisted me dividing my attention so that I didn't remain 100% loyal. And sorry to say that, I am recorded, but I won't remain 100% loyal to the company who is actually lawfully going to retrench me in 6 months' time. Because that's what I look at retirement. Let's be honest, it is a very nice packaged way of retrenching me, but sending me off with a very nice gift, and hopefully you will be sitting at the seaside and enjoying your life. And in the meantime, it is a way of actually just making room for others to move in. That's my cynical view on this, because the whole thing, in terms of even with the financial planning and all of this, is actually disregarding that life happens to people. And saying only 3% will retire financially free. Yes, it's a 3% that hopefully had very good paying jobs, and life might not have happened to them as like with others. And I'm talking in terms of health, I'm talking in terms of relationship, spouses that pass away earlier, other things that happen in life, retrenchments, all those kind of things happening. And it's expected from you to grow from being at school up to 60, to grow your career, earn and build your wealth in spite of what life is going to hit you with, so that you can take care of yourself for the next 40 years. It's such a myth that I can't believe who has actually made those calculations. And that's about my most cynical view on all of this, apart from that, in saying we can prepare more, we can prepare better, we can be more proactive, and having an entrepreneurial thinking is really going to help you to actually bridge that going from of corporate employment or employment to actually be the person, the best version of yourself. And that's for certain the opportunity of this next chapter. Thank you.
Thanks, Renee. I love your comment, Rich, in the chat about your employees having a 4-day week and the 5th day to create their own side hustles. I mean, that's a fantastic way of looking at helping people to create a much longer journey for themselves and taking responsibility and learning the skills along the way. We have about 6 minutes left. Is there anyone who would urgently like to say something before we close off? Sharon, I'm going to come to you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Linda. So I'm in corporate as well, and I attended Linda's Next Chapter course in my personal capacity because I needed to start thinking and planning for the future, but also with the lens of what we can do, because as much as we're in corporate, we don't have a program. I'm so grateful to the speakers today that shared some of the things that they've been doing. So our organization is a bit different. We don't have a retirement age. So people can stay on gainfully employed, contributing, until it suits them to leave. We don't necessarily want to force people out, but we do need to start considering the support that we have to put in place for those people who are wanting to transition into retirement or retirement. But that's a great thing about our organization. People have been staying well into their 70s, contributing maybe a different role, change roles, taking on guiding and supporting those people coming up into senior management levels. So it really has been very inspiring to work in an organization like that. But I think most people want to start or need to start thinking about what does it look like after that. And that's why I've done the course. And yeah, you've given me a lot of food for thought today. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. I think that, that is the way of the future, is to not have a retirement age, but it comes with its own complexity too. Because, there are some people that hold on with golden handcuffs for that 60 or 62 or whatever it is, but they aren't adding value. And actually that's detrimental to their own health. And so, but there are those at 60 or 62 who could still be very valuable, but maybe also in a different way. So I think the conversations are critical to create what that new future looks like. And so that's the reason for these conversations, is that we can start to think differently, engage with organizations. If you're from an organization, please send your HR person to us. We would happily love to engage and ensure that we have many more happy many more people over 60 without an identity crisis as they reach this gift season. So thanks to all of you for being involved, and special thanks to Lisa and Alwetu. Thank you very much for being here with us today.